The Falling of the Gods by Mauro Biglino. Let's see if I'm able to do the conference without the neck brace. Yesterday evening I couldn't. Now, today I will start and we'll see how it goes. Well, thanks to you all, of course, for being here. And so this last week for me was, is there someone here today that was here yesterday evening? Apart from those I know? Ah, just one, okay. This last week was, the last 8-9 days have been very intense. Just the opposite of what I need this moment. Because since the conference in Stuttgart, Germany, I'm having to go through a real lesson in the University of Eastern Piedmont. Because they called me to replace a teacher and give a class. And so I gladly went to talk to the students. And then at night, something which I learned about 3 days before, I had a meeting, a confrontation with a professor of sacred history. So I expected to go home after the 3.5 hours of class. But I did the contrary, and that night we continued debating until midnight, and now I have to convince my eyes to keep them open all day. So that is to say, it's been a bit difficult, and yet very intense, because some very interesting issues came up in the debate, and now we'll enter into the matter. So, while in Germany, I was given the newest Jewish Bible, which is the one I've been talking about for some months now. And later I will show to you, obviously, as we go deeper into different matters. In which end the German Catholic bishop have retired. They have taken away something that never existed in the Jewish Bible. I'm referring to the prophecy of Isaiah about the virgin conceiving and giving birth to a son. It's a prophet that has never existed in the Jewish Bible. I'm saying it for years. For years I tell that when I found these alleged prophecies about the Old Testament that refer to Jesus Christ, I'm telling you, you should seek the explanation from a Catholic theologian, an explanation from a Jewish exegete, and you'll find two different explanations, and the one who will be right will be the Jew, because there is no prophecies of the Old Testament that refers to Jesus. Now it has finally been removed, and it's the most important because it's the one that tells us that the virgin will conceive. This has never existed. During these years I've been telling it. I remember very well what was written. Among the many things that have been written, of course, you can find centuries of tradition that speaks of this. Then of course Biglino arrives, and as I always tell you, he doesn't found about anything. He's doing a fool's job. He reads what is written, and there is no writing. So, if it's not written, there is none. That's it. There are other written things. So, in the end, the German bishop have taken note. Now, we are going to see it. I mean, I do not know when, but we will see it. I guarantee you, we will see it. And because this is one of the things that is changing before our eyes in the biblical translations. Translations that have always changed along the centuries, that are still changing and that will change again. I'm telling you, for example, that in the coming years, you'll probably see the disappearance of the concept of creation out of nothing, because there isn't really one. You'll see the concept of omnipotent God disappear, because there isn't really one. You'll see the translation of olam disappear, meaning eternity, because olam does not mean eternity. Then you'll also see the disappearance of a lot of things predicted until now. Excuse me? Please. Sorry, I only have 1 second. I do not have your 40 seconds of silence because we put the parts together. It's done. It's already been done. Oh, okay, well, forgive me. I'll go on, because I must repeat that the translations have always changed and will continue to change. However, the Bible is always preached as true, absolutely true on the basis of the translation of the moment. Since the translations change, the truth of the moment also changes. And all of this is absolutely normal. It is the norm and rule for all ancient books. For all of them. All. The problem is, or better said, luckily, monotheistic theologies haven't been founded on the other books, with its absolute truths, with dogmas. So, if you change the translation of the Akkadian Sumerian text, what problem would it imply? None. None. The fact that they can change the translations of Plato and Aristotle, what problem would it bring on? None at all. They're also changing the translation about the first philosophers, those like Anaximenes, Anaximander, Anaxagoras, etc. Also those are changing, and really strongly in some cases. But it's all fine, it's not a problem. The problem arises in the moment that a book which can be approached this way, that is being approached, because it's inevitable, it cannot be approached in a different way. It's being used to build absolute truths and make the root of a religion on which it depends. It would depend, although fortunately it's not so. Our eternity would depend. That group of books, because it must be said, that to say that the Bible is a book is really a bestiality. This set of books is a set of books, among other things, that change according to the geographical situation in which we were born. That is, we are here, and we have always heard that with regard to the Old Testament, the books that we consider true are just over 40. So if we are born in Israel, you have little over 20 books. And if we are born in San Maria, you have 6 books. And if we are born among the Protestants, they are more or less the same as those of the Jews. If we are born among the Coptic Christians, they are more or less the same as the Jews, plus other books that are not taken for real, for the Jews, nor for the Roman Christians. Then, depending on where we're born, there are books, some true and other false. This here is already making it very clear to us. If you fear to spend some years in this supermarket of religions, some centuries in purgatory, because perhaps you do not feel just and perfect, and perhaps you have committed some minor sins and then you have to burn yourself a little. If this is the case, then convert to Orthodox. Keep holding on a little longer, don't just die yet. Tomorrow morning you go and convert to Orthodox, and then you won't go to purgatory, you won't go anymore. Because in essence, for the Orthodox, purgatory doesn't exist. That is, it is a theological elaboration of the Roman theologians. Orthodox theology has never elaborated about it. So for them it simply doesn't exist. But you're still Christian, always you have that same God, you still have the same Jesus Christ. The same God who looks on the Rome and says, I'll burn you a little. But if you look at Athens, if you're afraid to spend all eternity in hell, then become Orthodox. With the end of times, the Orthodox hell is over. Because from here to the end of times, those who are in hell, you are in there. We need to be patient. We still have to be here a little while. I have to be a bit more. All of those who are in hell have the possibility to repent thanks to the petitions and prayers of the other faithful devotees. Then all will repent with the end of times. So, when the so-called final judgment arrives, hell will close its doors, and then we'll all go off to paradise.
Quando arriva il cosiddetto giudizio universale, l'inferno chiude i battenti e quindi tutti in paradiso. È il supermercato delle religioni.
It is the supermarket of religions. So choose the one you like most, but without thinking it is the truest one. Because if one thinks about choosing a religion because it's the truest one, they'll keep on being deceived. Because nobody knows the truth. I less than no one. May it be very clear, I less than anyone. Choose the one that makes you live a better life. That would be one who has faith, grow it. When I tell you the Bible doesn't speak of God, I never mention that God does not exist. Because in order to say that God doesn't exist, we need to know that He does not exist. But I don't know. I don't know anything about God, so I do not talk about Him. It's difficult enough to talk about the things that we have at hand and that we are somehow trying to examine and understand. Let's think about talking about something. How can we? And yet the world is full of people who know everything about God. I don't know anything, therefore I do not speak about Him. When I say that I don't speak about Him, I neither say that He exists or doesn't exist, because I really don't know. So, for the one who has faith, God exists, especially if that faith makes them live well. Then it is good that whoever has faith cultivates it. The problem is knowing. being aware of this faith, then the foolish work that I do is that of reading, trying to read what is written in the Bible, particularly in the Old Testament, which serves only one thing. It serves to comprehend and to make people understand that the God they have invented is not inside there. He's not in there, I'm sure. If then the real God exists or doesn't exist, I immediately stop. But the problem is that we talk about this group of books which, as we mentioned before, changes according to the geographical situation. We do not know who wrote them, but how? But as I said with the book of Isaiah, who wrote it precisely? Who has written it? Who has written it? Who knows? Who knows? 66 chapters. The chapters from 1 to 39, those that belong to the Pontifical Commission, we grant them to Isaiah. Because we have no serious reason to deny it, except from chapters 13 to 23 that we already know that he hasn't written it. And in the last month, the research that comes from the Jewish University of Israel say that also the chapters from 33 to 39. Also these, because we've discovered they were written long after his time. So, the chapters 1 to 39 we give authorship to Isaiah, because we have no serious reason to deny it, except chapter 13 to 23 and 33 to 39. The chapters from 40 to 55 have been written by those we call them Deuteronomy Isaiah, the second Isaiah. We call him like this because we do not know who wrote it 2 centuries after the first. The last chapter has been written by one called 3 Isaiah, that is the third Isaiah, who wrote it some decades after the second. That means that in the best of hypotheses, the book of Isaiah was written by a certain number of people. We don't know how many and who had written it for at least 2.5 centuries, but we call it, this is the book of the prophet Isaiah. How can we? How can we? The book of Ezekiel, 1250 verses. Someone wants to read the history of the exegesis, the book of Ezekiel. It has been said that perhaps we can attribute 125 verses to him. This book, or rather this set of books, are preached by a great hierarchy. Popes, cardinals, bishops, theologians, priests, catechicists, who in the 90% of the cases are unaware of the language in which it was written. Therefore they preach on the basis of translations. But these translations change continuously, and they change a lot. But yet every time they are preached as the true translation.
E quindi ogni volta predicano la traduzione vera.
There are thousands of religions in the world, and the curious thing is that it doesn't matter where you're born in the world, you will always hear that you have had the luck to be born in the correct religion. All of them, all of them, all of them will tell you this. And who establishes which is the correct religion? Who has the power over religions and say, you're lucky to be born here, this is the correct religion? Well, they preach on the basis of translations. Then in the world there are approximately 2.5 billion Catholics, Protestant, Orthodox, 2.5 billion Christians who believe absolutely and formally what is written in this book. And even though they have never read it. We are not talking about a sect of 300 people who have a guru, who preaches on the basis of a group of books of which nobody knows anything, don't know what is written or who really wrote it. And then this guru has, let's say, about 15 ministers, so they can help him spread the word. And then some 250, 300 devotees who blindly believe what the guru and his ministers say. And they have never read this book. We're talking about Christianity here. If instead of 2.5 billion people there had been 200,000, none of us would find it difficult to say that this is a sect, this is a psycho-sect. But since it's Christianity, it cannot be said. But I say it anyways. Because it's like that. There's nothing to do. They're pagan. About 2,000 years from now, some archaeologists will dig here, right where we are now, when we're completely covered, and they'll find thousands of statues of a man nailed to a cross made of wood, plastic, plaster, whichever you want, metal. They'll do research on it, and probably, unless other events do not take place at the same time, they'll come to the conclusion, which is the current conclusion, that there aren't any actual proof about the physical existence of this person.
Evenienze che vengono fuori, arriverà alla conclusione, che è la conclusione attuale, che di prove storiche certe dell'esistenza fisica di questo qui non ce ne sono. Badate bene, io sono...
Don't be mistaken. I am, and this way we can clarify misunderstandings. I am one of those who think that he did exist. Therefore, I'm not denying the historical existence of this rabbi, Jew, Messiah. But if you ask me to give you historical proofs about his existence, I haven't got any, okay? I haven't got them. So if these archaeologists come to the conclusion that we worship an idol, after which we will also worship besides him, in a certain point forward, worship and deify his mother as a deity. When we read the first text that speaks of Jesus Christ, the mother has no outstanding role. The few times she intervenes, she is mistreated. But then, after a few centuries, they turn her into divine Theotokos, Mother of God. Then they created a series of intermediate deities to ask for help and consolation and grace, what we call saints. They would make their small statues, figures, and put them on their little tables, and they would make small piles. Is there anyone here who can give a true explanation of the difference between the statuettes of Father Pio and the statuettes of the Lari Penati that the Romans would put on their altars? A real explanation of the difference. Let's see, it says, look how poor our Lari Penati, their ancestors would think. But when we go to a funeral, the priest tells us that we have to pray for our deceased, that we have to ask our deceased to intercede for us. There. Where is it? What difference is there? None. None. Babylonians used trapezoidal geometry to calculate the orbits of the planets, and used a simplified trigonometry respect to ours, but not in the childish sense, but in the sense that it was more intelligently simplified. But they were so stupid that they talked with stones without knowing that there was no one behind.
Erano talmente stupidi da parlare con delle pietre senza sapere che non c'era nessuno dietro. I Fenici, che hanno conquistato con i commerci e con
the Phoenicians, who conquered the Mediterranean with trade and arms, they were so stupid that they talked with some stones without knowing that inside there was no one. The Egyptians, they were so stupid they adored and talked to statues and images without knowing that there was no one inside. All Hindus are so stupid that they adore and converse with images without knowing that there's nobody inside. This is the reasoning that we do, but there's a substantial difference. There's more than one real difference, because there is no difference between our statues and theirs. The real difference is that these statues that we have, we shouldn't be able to have them at all, because the God of our religion has especially forbidden it and never revoked the order. Therefore, we should go with the Bible to all the churches and say, remove all those from there, because they are all a blasphemy against God. That God has said, you will never build images, nor will you surrender yourself to any image, and you will not kneel down in front of images created by you. We are surrounded by images because the rising church knew well that if they hadn't been given permission for this, what would all those devotees have done? Because the other cults did not have that condition. Therefore, the Romans could make statuettes, we couldn't. We do not only create them, we also sell them, and who should forbid it earns money with it. And why do they do it? Because they know well that never this God that they created themselves will ask back about this, because he isn't there. Therefore they have gone and done everything we can see, statues, images, people all the time lighting candles, all forbidden. Then over the centuries they have invented explanations. But these explanations are invented. The order is imperative, peremptory. But they do not care because it's okay this way.
L'ordine è perentorio. Perentorio. Ma se ne frega.
And why did Mary then become divine? Because all other religions had female figures. Christianity could not remain without it. Then of course they have also elaborated all these things.
E quindi ovviamente si sono elaborate anche queste.